Every guitar builder needs a gouge or two in their life. Most makers do too. If you're building guitars, which gouges do you actually need? What will you use day in, day out? You don't need hundreds of them. You, in fact, only really need 3. I won't tell your significant other if you don't. Burn it. Haha, yay! So gouges are fantastic tools for removing a large amount of material fairly rapidly and with a little bit of practice, with extreme precision. There are different uses though and different characteristics of each tool. And very basically, once you've got sharpening out of the way and you know how to do that, the geometry of the gouge itself depicts its use. The most useful, if you are talking about carving, if you are talking about, for example, making a PRS or a Les Paul style carved top, you will want to, with your mallet, remove as much material as possible, as fast as possible. And in order to do that, you need to understand sweeps. Now, the sweep of the gouge is the curve. And you want, for removing material rapidly and quickly, you want a fairly steep curve. I would say a number 6. We're going to pop up on the screen a quick image representation of the various sweeps. They go from number 1, which is, well, a 0 is a chisel, which is flat, and then all the way up, and there's various different V's and shapes, and there's a macaroni and a fluteroni and all sorts of things like that that you don't need to know about, nor worry about. A standard number 6 carving gouge, it's called a straight gouge actually, like so. A standard number 6 straight gouge, about, say, 3/4 of an inch wide, and a mallet. And with that, you can remove large amounts of material very rapidly and get to something close to your final instrument. That is the most important gouge in a luthier's arsenal. After that, you end up with a guitar that is the shape that you require, or even, hell, you could use the same technique for making a bottom shape in a stool, for example. But you've got lots of ridges and canyons and rivulets, etc., that wouldn't be particularly comfortable. In order to get rid of those, what you then need is a larger, wider, in this case 1 inch wide, gouge with a shallower sweep. So this is closer to a number 4, and with this you can go through and flatten off a lot of those larger marks and shapes that you've made, and get to something much closer to the final product. In fact, with one of these you can get to the final product. It will make your final sanding much, much easier. The final gouge that everyone needs is, it's the opposite sort of a thing. You have 2 types of gouges, in cannel and out cannel, or inside ground and outside ground. The 2 that I've talked about so far, the bevel is on the back of the gouge away from you. So you're standing there carving away and it acts like a plane. On an inside ground gouge, it's the opposite way. The back of the gouge is absolutely flat and the bevel is ground onto the inside, which means that you can follow something flat and gouge away inside it. Now, if you have a, I'm going to go into millimeters now, 4mm, just over 1/8 of an inch size, with a relatively curved shape, this is surprisingly useful. And almost entirely is when you've been routing and you are, for example, using a template and the router cutter doesn't quite go into all of the corners, i.e. you've got a half-inch router cutter and the internal radius of the channel that you're routing is supposed to be 1/4 of an inch. Inside of that corner, the pickup cavity is a prime example, the router bit isn't getting all the way in. That is where you can go in with one of these, if you have to, and very, very, very carefully make it look better. I have used this gouge a hell of a lot. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds, literally hundreds of different options available to you. Curved gouges, V gouges, veining gouges, backbent gouges, and spoon gouges, and all of these things that every now and then will be useful. But if you're just building guitars, I say just building guitars, it is the highest art, of course, you don't need all of those. Not by a long shot. You want them. You deserve them, even. But, you know, you don't really need them. I hope this has been useful. Please click like and subscribe, and let me know what else you'd like to see me cover in these Tool Tuesdays videos. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye. I have so many. This is what happens when you own a vintage tool shop. This is a John Green. This is from the 1600s? Anyway.